Not the button I wanted. Got it.
And it's been a long time since I found a series that I just could not stop going to the next episode, and this was one of
Oh, no. It's great, man.
yeah,
I
so
really
good.
enjoyed it too. I was watching three. I just kept on falling asleep and oh, so hard. Okay. Here we go. Avast me hearties and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie, Professor Esser, and with me as always is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey Maz, welcome back. In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, in a galaxy far, far away, there are those who are seeking to hide, or are they seeking redemption? This is the story of Andor. Season 1, Episode 3, Reckoning. Cassian's desperation to avoid arrest leads him to a mysterious man with unknown connections. Our director this week is Toby Haynes. Our writers this week are Tony Gilroy, who gets that written by and created by. So he is the hardest working man in show business this week. George Lucas, he gets that based on Star Wars by credit because he ain't working not hard at all now. All right. I like how this episode opens up where we're back at the ship, right? We're in the ship.
Where the young Cassian is.
Yeah, young
Yeah,
Cassian
yeah.
is exploring, and he sees his reflection and freaks out a little.
Yeah, what was that about?
I wonder if they if you really just had not ever seen a reflective surface before.
But
I mean,
that's
we see that they have like old junk there, but maybe nothing that had a high sheen.
or a lake.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's odd. It's odd that he does that, but maybe he saw his face and saw how young he still was, because he was imagining himself the mighty hunter of his village, and in truth, he is not. We meet in this the woman who winds up being his mom,
Marva.
Marva. Yeah, her and her gentleman,
Hmm.
who I don't know if we got a name on, but
Don't
they come in and they
remember.
what?
I said I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know
they
if I
find
did.
he has very few lines, except like I got the feeling he didn't want the kid there, but he's just there to he's a scrapper. He's just there to scrap. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, we gotta take this kid with us.
Yeah, I mean, I
That
was kind of on his side when he goes, "Look, he's got people here. Just gonna kidnap somebody for no reason? Like that's literally what we have to take.
Yeah.
Why? This is this home. We just came here to get the goods. We didn't come here to kidnap people."
Yeah, but in the long run, maybe it saved him because,
Yeah, she does make
as
a
we
good point
know, there
immediately
is
afterwards.
yeah, which is that the Empire is here. The Empire is going to be strip mining this place. They've already started, and if they don't get him out, he may not survive. They can't leave him behind because he has he has a right to live that he might not get from this. But as we can see, that is what leads to this entire storyline, because he is looking for his sister, who did not get rescued that day.
Well, I guess if towards the end of this series we find out that he finds his sister, then we will know that Marva did not have a point, that she shouldn't have
Yeah.
taken him, right? That they all
Mm-hmm.
survived, or at least that she survived. So she was the cause of a lot of heartache for him. But if we find out that
Mm-hmm.
the sister indeed passed away during whatever ensuing calamity befell them, then we'll know that she was right to have taken Cassian off that
I
planet.
mean, there's a lot of different ways you could cut it too. maybe if he had stayed, they'd both die. Maybe it was because she didn't have a big brother there that allowed her, to be taken off world for some reason. And that's why she got to survive, because she didn't have a big brother protector, but had a big brother protector been there, they both would have just been shot. you know
Right, right. But
you
the
know,
calculations it takes to get to that eventuality are far greater than the calculations it would take to get to, the other
yeah,
end.
in general, I think that the core point, the Star Trek point about non-interference
Mm.
maybe would have had a greater value here, but that is something we're going to see as the story progresses. And Maz has been watching ahead, so maybe he's hinting into me
Oh,
what.
no, 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 no. That
Okay,
part still isn't clear to me yet either.
okay.
That
So
wasn't
that's a
the
mystery
put
that remains unsolved, at least
Yeah.
by as far as Maz has watched. Um, but yeah, but we get back to the now time, and Cassian knows he's got to get out of here because he knows the cops are after him, and he's setting it up. He's got his box for the buyer, and the girl is setting up for the meeting where he's going to negotiate with Cassian. But of course, also at the same time, we do see the corporate security guards coming in full force,
Mm,
guns
yeah.
blazing.
The fat man has talked his man
Yeah,
into doing his will, and you could see like, oh man,
yeah,
we're finally getting to do it. I've been trying to talk the brass into this, and finally this guy agreed with me, and they're just so excited.
yeah. But not for nothing. I mean, it may not end the way they are hoping it does,
Oh
and
man, that's maybe my favorite part of this episode. God, I love the end of this
yeah.
episode.
Well, it is just the fact that they are, they're coming in there to be, skull crackers.
Yeah.
And they think that, okay, we're going to go there, we're going to intimidate some people, we're going to find our criminal, we're going to bring him back and hold him to justice. But of course, everyone's a couple steps ahead of them because they're living their lives. And also, more importantly, it's like the people that are on Ferrix, they didn't necessarily want the cops coming by. You
Nor
know,
did I think the cops do a good enough job of researching their options and their tactics upon landing.
no,
They just
exactly.
felt like doing it and just went ahead. Didn't have any
You know,
insight into what they could encounter, didn't have any backup plan in place or nothing. They were just like, let's just be out there.
yeah, and that was a mistake. I think we can all agree. They went in there to find someone, and they follow a pretty good plan. But of course, it does start to fall apart once. It's interesting because at one point it seems like they're really in control when they go and they break into the old lady's house and they're threatening her and smashing stuff up and you know
To
asking her
me,
where
that seemed like to show that they were not in control, right? That they were
well,
showing these little baby tantrums. They didn't really like have a well thought out. That's what it seemed like to me. It's like I mirrored it to like when you see fighters face off before the fight, right? And there's always that
mhm,
one fighter who's like really jawing back and forth, and you could always tell that's the guy who's scared and he's trying to make up for it
yeah,
by all this. And that's sort of like what you see with them. They're like, everybody knows it's like, come on, you shouldn't be doing this, and they're like, oh, okay. Because like when Marva says to him, "Oh, you can't talk to him that way. He can't take out your battery," and he turns around, and he's like, "You shut up," and she's like, "Oh, okay, this is where we are." All right, I see you. You
yeah,
have you have complete blinders on.
yeah, and the reality is they probably couldn't take out a droid's battery because the droid is probably more adept at its job than they are at theirs. But of course, the problem happens is that just at that moment, he calls in on the secure line. Which not for nothing that got Mando in trouble too, if we recall.
So
So
what was interesting about this to me was he's on the phone, and obviously they can hear him. wouldn't he be able to hear their conversations? I thought to myself in that moment, if that droid was really smart, he would start like, sounding back their conversation as well, so that once Cassian hears it, he can tactically use it to misdirect them somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he didn't. I think that in that scene, the cops are being quiet enough
Hmm.
that they can't really pick it up, and they're mostly just making sure everyone else be quiet. So he's just
Right.
like,
I
"Hey,
know.
what's going on? I'm here and here," letting him talk himself out.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
like our droid friend could have been a bit more helpful in that situation.
yeah. Well, he's not for nothing. And one thing I'll say is we
Maybe he was
see,
already spent from lying so much earlier.
yeah, he's been honestly. Well, we see how much that poor droid has been through because we see at the start in the beginning, and he's just like BE80. I'm coming in. I'm ready. I'm fresh off the assembly line, all clean and shiny. And then we see him now, and he's like Bob in Black Hole, where he's just like got one, he's just floating there, all busted up.
Mm.
He's not Vincent anymore. He's Bob. And I don't know if you've seen Black Hole, but those are the two droids voiced by Slim Pickens and Roddy McDowell. And Vincent is the new fresh one, and Bob is one that's spent a
Mm.
year on the Cygnus, or actually several years on the Cygnus, just getting the metal beaten out of him by the
Mm.
beings, the creatures on the Cygnus. So, great film, Black Hole. I always want to give it a
Mm.
big plug. But yeah, but obviously our droid has seen better days, and is having a hard time. So I don't necessarily blame it for the
Yeah.
fact that it didn't have the best strategy in that moment. Um, but we do see Cassian and the buyer meet, and they have a very interesting interaction.
Yeah.
And what I thought was the most interesting is the fact that, yeah, the buyer wants the box. Like he says, if that's all I can get, I'll get it. I'll pay you, and that's fine. But I want you. That I have been, I can see what you bring as this, smart ne'er do well.
Yeah. This was
What
like
you
a
can
modern
bring to
day
the resist.
CIA recruitment story,
It is. It is very well. It is in its own way because he
Yeah.
even makes this point about, or is that next episode about how, yeah, the Empire, yeah, like it's all these different groups, and the Empire keeps you fighting amongst each other,
Mm.
you know, and that I think is like that real central point here is like, you know, this, everyone has this idea, and no one is organized enough. I want to help you get organized, and I think you can be one of the guys that can help us get organized.
Also, I think he what
Um,
he appreciated about Cassian was the fact that the way that he was able to acquire this GPS box. It's like, how'd you get in there and get it, right? Was it some sort of tactical thing? Did you know some sort of, secret hideaway? Did you pry some information out of somebody to get a door open for you or something like that? How'd you get it? And he's like, man, I just walked in there and took it. And then when he displayed like he really understood the mindset of the enemy, like they're so like he
mhm.
really understood what the cracks in their armor are. Most people can't see it, but a person in the buyer's situation who really is involved in the nitty-gritty of how we're going to break this structure down sees that he sees all those cracks that it took him a while to see. And he's like, their bravado won't let them even consider that I could have been there. So as long as I could get in there, I walk with confidence. And it showed that he has like that understanding of social engineering and of human behavior patterns, that he can um, exist in spaces where he shouldn't and not be noticed.
Exactly. And that is the strength of it, without a doubt. I mean, that is how it really works well for the character in that moment. The character in that moment needs to, um and this is just a storytelling point, they just need to show why this is the right guy.
Mm.
And you could have him be, it's funny. It's like you could do a lot of different ways to show what this guy's value is, connections, plotting, planning, timing. But really, it's actually what makes him most valuable is the fact that he understands people, and he understands the flaws in the system that he can now exploit. And that's a good thing,
Yeah,
that
incredibly
that's
valuable asset. He's like,
yeah.
I don't want my trip to be for nothing. If the box is there, I'll take the box. But this
Mhm.
was a job interview, Cassian.
Yeah, and I like that. And I'm a little disappointed by it, but it is
How
that
so?
that they wind up no, what I mean that they wind up leaving the box.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Because he's like, because after they burst in and they take them out,
yeah.
they take the first two guards out, and he says, "Oh, let me go get the box. It's just right over there." And he says, "What if they only have two?" And he says, "They never have just two." You know.
Yeah.
And then, but it is neat because then you have this problem where the guards are going into the rabbit holes, and we immediately see, which is one of the things I found most interesting, is that as they're coming in, all of a sudden, they start pounding on the metal, because we saw at this, we saw earlier in the season, that this is how you call people into the place, and that certain pounds and certain noises have certain meanings to people, and so way you can communicate, and then you see them do this whole thing where they're like tapping out this beat, and you get this thing where like the two guys tap out the beat to coordinate, and then it's just like and they're just sending this message to one another about where they are. And the fat guy, of course, was, "Oh, they're just trying to intimidate." It's like, no, man, they're clearly sending your logistics. Are saying, "Here's who's here.
Yeah.
Here's where they're at. Here's what they're doing. Don't talk to nobody. Snitches get
Also,
stitches."
like the way Marva put it, it's like, you have to really be worried when that clangety clanging stops. Right. And that was such an
Yeah.
interesting moment. Like, as that stops, there's like this eerie quiet, and it's so jarring to like have it been going on for like hours, right? And then when it stops, it's like that's the moment where you can surprise them with something, right? So it almost gives everybody time
Right.
to sort of like position, and then when it stops, it's like they're so it's almost like throwing sand in a guy's face when you're fighting him, right? You have like this brief moment where
Mm-hmm.
you could do anything to the guy, so it's like
Right.
that's also what a strategic asset this little game is. You get them almost
Mm-hmm.
hypnotized with the sound, and then when it stops, you're like, wait, what, and then boom, the world crashes in on you. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I do find it interesting that I guess just people just park speeders all over the place, and you just go grab a
Yeah,
speeder when you need one.
right. And
It's like
because I think
e-cars.
they're very anti the empire and whatnot, so they know there's no like government feds coming to solve their problems, right? Everybody has to
Right.
have, so I think they're that kind of people, and they're prepared for incursions of this sort. And they're like, wait a second, only
Yeah.
sent like four guys. All right, all right. I don't think these guys
Yeah.
have alerted the higher above that they're supposed to be here. Hey, we'll take our chances. They're
Yeah.
not going to do this to us, right?
Yeah. Well, I like the one guy that like the guy who deserts,
Wait, the guy
and
first?
yeah, the guy who runs to the ship to take off and try and fly away.
Oh, yeah. I thought so. See,
Yeah,
I
and
thought
he
his,
doesn't.
yeah, because they could have radioed for help.
Yeah, but well, then I guess they eventually do once it all calms down. But it's just in this moment, this guy realizes it's desperate, and he just deserts. And at first I was like, wait, what? Why is that guy just running? But and like not saying we should all leave. It's like, no, I'm gonna leave. But then he doesn't check to see that someone has chained a cinder block to their ship, and as he's flying away, it gets caught, And of course, what's funny what's not funny, it's actually tragic and horrifying. But they see the ship taking off, and they don't like, what is that one of ours? And then all of a sudden, it gets stuck and crashes,
It's like the old
and they think it got shot down.
oh yeah. That just must make you feel so desperate.
Yeah, well,
They're
because
going to get us.
yeah, because that's what's happening. It is a combination of incompetence on their part and skill and planning on the criminals' parts.
Yeah, it's just like a space version of the Axel Foley banana in the tailpipe trick,
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that if this person had been maybe a more experienced pilot, they first off, they would have thought to check for that, or they would have known how to deal with something like that.
Although going down your checklist of things to check is probably not on his mind right now. He thought he was going to die,
Yeah, he is running and leaving all of his friends to die.
Yeah,
that was his plan.
Yeah, checklist was not on his mind.
Yes, but But see, that is, if you're ever a trucker, they will. That's like, you get your CDL. You got to go. You got to show what you check on the rig. My lights are there. My things are there. Things are there. Gotta walk around the truck, inspect your truck, man. Do not turn that key before you inspect it, because someone might have tied a cinder block to your axle, and that's gonna be a problem. Yep. But yeah, they are, they're working out their strategy to get away. Prior to this, of course, Cassian had told people, I'm going to have your money. Make sure, the girl gets hers, and yada yada yada, and she'll have your money, and it does all this stuff. Which actually leads to what I think is what is definitely one of the saddest things for me in this. Both when she realizes that her boyfriend is the one who sold out Cassian.
Yeah.
But then, it's sad because on one level, she's mad that he did that, but then she has to go try and fix it. But then she gets caught by them, and they're beating her. And then the guy's like, "Why are you beating her? I'm the one that did this." And they just shoot him. And this was what breaks my heart, is that when they do unlock her, she does run to him.
Right.
That they're really, and that's why I say I really think there was something between them.
Of course there was. Of course there was. But there were also mistakes in not communicating effectively what was actually going on. Right? Both were making decisions based on assumptions about each other that weren't true, and they just weren't willing to be straightforward with each other. So these misunderstandings wouldn't lead to things like this, right? And she runs over to him because she can't even blame him, because she understands sort of the reactionary emotions that would have caused him to do that, because she wasn't straightforward with him. So she feels guilty. I'm sure she feels like she got him killed. And I think that's probably heavier on her mind than, why did he do it? So,
I mean,
terrible situation all around. And for him, it's yeah, man, the Empire is not your friend. If you are useful to the Empire, you are useful to the Empire, but the Empire is not your friend.
Yeah, although I guess, one of the things we're supposed to remember about these guys is this is not the Empire.
Yeah, or
this is corporate
whoever
security
is claiming authority over you at the moment.
Yeah, because and that's going to be how this sort of plays out later. But in this moment, this is these,
which is out of character for someone who lives on a planet where everybody has spears hidden everywhere.
Yeah,
a sort of bootlicking authority, sense of
that
was a bit much to take in for someone who lives in that
because
kind of
I don't think, first of all, I don't think it was I think it was about him feeling this person is going to get my girl in trouble. not realizing that because that's the thing. It's like, why I'm the one that, I told you who the guy is. Why are you hurting her? She's not involved in this. But as
That's
it
also
turns out,
dumb on his part because he knew she was involved in this.
well, she didn't probably tell him where.
Well, right, but I mean, like, you know.
He probably thought it's his own naivete. He thought she was a legitimate junk dealer.
I mean, come on now.
I know,
like
but
the reason she's running off with him at all odd hours is either because they got a shady under the table business, or they're doing some shady under the table business.
He thought it was just he thought he was just sleeping around. He didn't think she was. She's
okay.
well,
So
if you just told me you were selling catalytic converters, I'm gonna go, oh, okay,
right.
I understand that. Why you're not telling me you're selling catalytic converters? Okay, fine. That's a whole different ballgame.
Speaking of which, I heard they caught the guy in Jersey that was like the ringleader of all these catalytic converter robberies around the area.
Yeah, well, that is a dirty business. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, it's dirty not just in the sense that it's weird to steal, but just the amount of work you had to go to process to get the precious metals out.
What?
It is just
not just that, but like the amount of work to like saw it off of a car. Somebody did it across the street from my house like a couple months ago. 2:00 in the morning, I just hear like this zing noise. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, come on, man, stop. It's 2:00 in the morning. And all of a sudden I hear a lady screaming, get away from my car. And I go to the window and this car is driving off and they stole her catalytic converter.
That's just crazy. It's but I guess that's
insane.
I don't know. It seems to me that that's more work than work. I don't know. That's just me as a
guy.
What
do they call them in the Star Wars universe? The little guys who steal
the Jawas.
Yeah, Jawas. Yeah, it was like a bunch of Jawas just got my neighbor.
That's how it goes sometimes. Yeah. No Jawas on Perich, which I found interesting.
Huh.
Too
cold.
You'd think that. I'm sorry.
Too cold for them? They're like desert people, right?
No, actually, I think that they just don't tolerate the nature of Jawa culture, because Jawas believe if you're not holding it, then it's salvage.
Yeah,
it's
if
all
you weren't
salvage.
Looking, it was mine.
Yeah, it's like, well, if you wanted this, you should have this in your cart and carry it with you everywhere you go. Come on, man! You're just gonna leave your. You're gonna leave.
That's funny.
You're just gonna park a ship here, man. We can just go right under there and saw off your catalytic converter, right? I mean, really, that's what you wanted us to do. You were saying, "Oh, here's a catalytic converter for you, man." But yeah, so that's that. Yeah, but I get the feeling, in Perich, that they probably don't tolerate that sort of Jawa-ishness. So the Jawas probably give it a wide berth because they're probably Also, I don't know how I don't know the Jawas culture of spacefaring, and I think they probably work best when they are in it. Because I mean, there is a lot of roaming open space there.
Yeah,
but maybe it's not as conducive to Jawa culture. Which I guess maybe goes back to the heat and the cold thing. But yeah. It's interesting when you think about how a culture might evolve in that kind of situation. Because were the Jawas just nomadic gatherers, and then one day all these metal things started showing up, so they started to gather the metal things. It's like the gods must. You ever see the film The Gods Must Be Crazy?
Oh, with the bottle caps?
No, it was a Coke bottle. So a Coke bottle falls into this remote village. And everyone's really excited because they've never seen, something so hard and so clear and had so many uses. They could smash things. They could smash gourds with it. They could play music on it. They could do it. But all of a sudden, everyone starts fighting over it, because there weren't enough of these Coke bottles to go around. So they say, usually when the gods give us things, they give us plenty of it to go around. Now they've given us this thing, but only one of them. So the gods must have gone crazy. So we have to take this to the end of the world and throw it off. It's a cute film. It's controversial for a lot of reasons. It was shot in South Africa, all that kind of stuff. But it actually is a enjoyable and funny movie. But anyway, but that's a whole other bag of hammers. You know, when we start getting into like films that were shot in unsavory places. But getting back to it, you know, I mean, I think from the Jawa culture, just they always just gathered whatever was around, and then all of a sudden, you know, spaceships started coming by and all these, and that was on the ground. And if it's on the ground, that's salvage, you know. It's stuff you pick up, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're going to give us food and money for these things? Okay, here you go.
You want
You
your
know, you're
stuff
going to
back? You're
pick
gonna
it
give
up
me
over
your
there
money?
too. Yeah, you know, and it's just how this culture evolves because you know they suddenly have these things. But anyway, in this moment, so they one of the things because like our hero actually gets captured at one point, right?
uh
Um, Cassian like ties him up and gags him.
oh, right. So
Uh,
that's right when the clanging stops. He's coming up behind Mr.
yeah,
Goody Two Shoes and ties him
yeah,
up, and then gets his
yeah,
I think he takes their one of their bikes, right? Pretends to leave in the little car, and then
yeah.
Cassian and the buyer leave on one of uh the
Well,
cops
actually, you know what I thought was
bikes.
interesting about that? Because they have him in there and they interrogate him and ask him how many people he has. And he says, you know, 12, no, 14. You know, he's like
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
how many he had when he got there because he's lost a few already. And, you know, they make their plans. And then it surprised me that they didn't choose to kill him.
I mean, at this
You
point,
know,
I hope Cassian has learned his lesson that it's only going to bring more trouble at his back.
yeah,
So,
well,
hey,
yeah. And that's
you
the,
know,
and this guy's wearing a uniform. And you know, you kill a guy in a uniform, it's even worse, you know.
yeah. Like, the
So
people
they
who
do
were
tie
willing
him
to
up.
ignore the last two, you're just going to force their hand.
Exactly, exactly.
Although he technically sets off the bomb that kills the others, right?
Yeah, I mean they killed lots of people. They still killed. So it's interesting to me that they don't do a shot to kill this guy. You know, and granted, you can
Yeah,
say, well, it's so the story can happen.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because I know we haven't seen the last of Jean Valjean here, but I do feel like it was an odd choice. But then again, maybe there's this idea that you know if someone dies because there was an explosion,
Right. That's just
you
random
don't
violence.
focus it
That's
on them.
explainable. But
Yeah,
like,
because like the first guy that dies, it's because he didn't check that he had the anchor tied to the boat.
right.
You know,
Right. It'd be
so he
hard to
died from
pin it
that.
on somebody, right? Same thing with an explosion.
Exactly.
But if you're personally
Yeah.
responsible for taking this person's life, like personally,
Yeah. You put a
that's a whole
bullet
different.
in the guy's head.
Yeah.
They notice the bullet. Yeah. Oh
It's,
man.
they
So
hey, they could have gotten out the way. They didn't need to be so close to that explosion. They were chasing me,
yeah. Yeah, and I do like when they send out the car. And actually, what's funny about that is just the fact that they send out the road car, which they then shoot and they blow up the car, and they're like so excited, like yeah, we got him.
And it's almost, you can almost see them saying, like, what that feeling, the overjoyed feeling that they had, I think was relief, because they know this has gone south really hard, right? And they're
Yeah,
like, I'm fearing for my job right now, everything's on the line. And then we get the guy and they're like, oh my god, all the problems that I thought I was going to run into Monday morning, they're all gone. Oh man, we dodged a bullet right there. That's that feeling that,
yeah,
and you just get to
and
the sense of,
then
like, they're like, oh, they're never gonna learn their lesson. They're not gonna, these incorrigible, uh whatever, are not gonna learn their lesson. And then that explosion goes off, and then, like, the most beautiful moment in this episode is just like him standing there recognizing that he messed up, that maybe he was
yeah,
wrong. Oh my god, it's beautiful, that watching that land on
yeah,
his face, and just like the despair, and like just the giving up in his face is just, oh, it's beautiful. Couldn't have happened to
yeah,
a better
and
person.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Um,
Mm.
it's sad in its own way because it is because you can because there are many times throughout this where I felt this guy was like, um, you know, he knew he was out of his depth. He knew things were about to go south, and it really caused him distress.
He's like he's the kid in fourth grade that would remind the teacher that she was supposed to give us a quiz today. I don't feel bad that that guy gets beat up after school.
Yeah, I mean, it is
I'm
what it is,
joking.
but
Obviously, nobody should get beat
no,
up.
no, no, no,
You
no.
know.
Well, we all have our pent up anger from the past.
Yes, indeed.
And again, and yeah, I mean, I won't say I'm glad that he got it, but I am glad that I am glad that I don't want him to suffer because I don't like any
Yeah, I
future
mean, like it
character.
was one of those moments where you can worry about nuance later, but in that moment, I'm going to enjoy your misery because you
Yeah.
wallowed in so many other people's misery for and not for any good ideal, for self-serving, ego-serving purposes, not for any good purpose. You didn't have a calling, you didn't have a broader goal. You just had
Well,
self-serving, ego-stroking desires that were propelling you to do the things you were doing, and you have this false idea of like this grand ideal that you stand for, but you don't.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'd like to think, you know, it's kind of like Frank Burns. If you ever watched MASH,
Mm-mm.
Frank Burns was a hypocrite and a liar, but he was also a patriot. And there were times where he would say things, and you knew he actually believed it.
Right.
He actually meant it when he said that. So this guy's kind of a Frank Burns character.
Mm.
He definitely, he's a weenie and a jerk, but he's also there's a part of him that really does have, this
I
rather
think
through
that
a
part of
glass
him is a
darkly.
lie, though. In my
Yeah.
opinion, as I see it, I think that part of it is an emotional lie. He's lying to himself, sure, but he
Hmm.
is lying.
He is lying to everyone else as well. Yeah. I mean and that's entirely possible too, Um you know,
But anyway, that
it's
made me
hard
happy.
I've only
That
seen
brought
so
me
many
laughter.
episodes so far, so I don't know how his arc fully plays out. I don't know if he's in past episode 3, but I do find him an interesting character. I hope he does have more things that happens to him. But in the moment, I at once am glad. Obviously, I'm glad. Cassian and Stellan Skarsgård have escaped.
Mm.
Um, and I do like the scene of them on the speeder bike, just shooting over whatever those squares of stuff are. It's neat looking,
I
and
mean,
it
they
is.
look
It's a
like
great
rice
visual.
patties, but like, they have
Yeah,
blue milk, so I'm sure they have purple rice. I mean, we have purple rice too, so
yeah. I mean, it's something. It's something, whatever it was. Because I don't know if that's like something for mining, if that's something for
oh, they
food.
look like farming because it looked like those Japanese rice fields.
Yeah,
But it's some sort of
yeah. But
crop
they
that they
also they
probably
farm
grow in that
moisture.
same
They
way.
farm moisture in this universe too. So
Yeah, I don't
you
think
never
that
know
seemed to be a
exactly.
problem on this planet.
Well, I mean, clean moisture might be. It's like when and to get back to it, it's like there was a thing about like the atmosphere on was it Kashin, the planet they were from, where it was okay, but it could be deadly if you were on it for too long, and
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. It's like sometimes there's bad stuff that's just waiting for you. But anyway, as it progresses, yeah, I mean they got away.
And
Um,
once again, he's being led away from imminent danger by a seemingly good person taking him on a brand new adventure, changing his life completely.
yeah, but it's always that question. Is this really a good? And it's not to say that he's not a good man. It's just that like we said, kind of comes off as like, a
Right,
CIA
but
operative.
I think he's trying his best to be as good as he can in a world that won't allow you to be as good as we would all like to be.
Yeah, that is true, Maz. That
I
is
mean,
true.
like his whole people, his planet got wiped out. They're looked on derisively by everybody else. Oh, those are those dark
Oh, I
canary.
was talking about selling stars cards
Oh,
character.
interesting.
Yeah, as for who's leading him away,
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I guess it's depending on. I guess the guy driving is technically leading, but he's being. It's Stellan Skarsgård who I kind of feel is in control of the whole situation.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah. So, any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Maz?
No, I'm really really enjoying what they're doing with this series. Most of all is the acting. There's so
Hmm.
much subtlety. There's so much like in between the lines that's happening that's making the rest of the lines actually so much more powerful. Really really love everything about this show.
Yeah, I mean it's a well written show. It's well acted, and this I think is so much of what the Disney Star Wars universe can be.
Hmm.
And this is why I think that these are where you can really approach the genre and the universe and the fiction and really tell something interesting. Because at the end of the day, what's interesting is the human stories of the people in these villages scattered about space and time.
I think
So,
it's always been a story about, the places where hope and despair meet.
exactly. That is exactly it. Because you know what? So much of life is where hope and despair meets, you know?
Mm.
Because, life is full of despair, but we continue on expressly because there really is hope, you know? And that's what we're all looking for.
Hey, somebody won that $2 billion Powerball, right?
Yeah, well, good for them, you know? I no, you know what? Hey, I'm just glad that my dollars help makes it. You know what? Nobody gets born a billionaire unless you were meant to be, unless you win the lucky sperm lottery. Most people don't ever get the chance to play that game.
Right.
The number of real self-made millionaires, billionaires, where they weren't starting out as already,
Hmm.
very, very comfortable. Um, it's a very small number.
Sure.
So the fact that anyone can buy a ticket and maybe win, that's
Hey,
beautiful to me. That's
yeah,
beautiful. I mean,
I agree.
I don't, and you can say it's a regressive tax. It's like, yeah, but it's a regressive tax for the people that are gambling.
Yeah, I guess
If you're
like
gonna say,
exactly like smokers like leave me alone. Gamblers
yeah,
are like, hey, leave me alone.
well, yeah, and I'm gonna say this right now, it's better than smoking
Yeah.
because one of us gets to be a millionaire. And if they
Yeah, yeah. There's no possibility of a smoker waking up with $2 billion.
exactly, and the fact that they blow it all within a year or whatever.
Hey, more power to
Okay,
them, man.
well, yeah, man, I might have done that too. I don't know. I hope I wouldn't. I'd like to think I wouldn't, but
Yeah.
if
But at the
in
same time, like, deride them for all you want.
yeah, and you know what,
They're
and
probably
and
gonna
you know what
have
I've not done.
two
I
years that are gonna be more fun than you could imagine having.
Yeah, you know what I'm not gonna do is without $1 million to build a dirt bike track in my backyard.
Hmm.
And if I'm a millionaire and I buy a house with a big yard and I build a dirt bike track and I use up all my money in 2 years and I break my neck on my dang dirt bike track, you know what? I built a dirt bike track in my
Yeah,
backyard.
yeah.
And that was fun.
Yeah,
And when
like
else are you gonna get
you
that
do that,
chance?
and I guarantee you, if anything's ever written about both of us, there are probably going to be more lines attributed to what I did, even though I didn't live as long as you did. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And you know what? And when you build a dirt bike track, you know what you're doing? You're giving good union jobs to workers coming in, building that dirt bike track for you. Every motorcycle you buy, that was union made, man.
Yeah.
You're giving back to the community more than most millionaires. So.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how you got to look at it, man. That's how I look at everything in life. All right, Mozz, if people would like to talk about millionaires or billionaires, oh, actually, wait, no, wait. Let me start the show. First off, we got to do all the plugs for the channel
Indeed.
for Capes and Lunatics, our founding fathers and mothers. CapesandLunatics at gmail.com. That's how you can write to us all, every single person on this show or on any show in the Capes and Lunatics franchise. Right to that email address. Tell us your thoughts. We will read your emails on the air if it's relevant to a show we do. Likewise, if you want to call us and actually say your piece like a living person and be heard on air, we will do that for you by giving you this number, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And finally, go down into our show notes, see the link for Linktree/Capes and Lunatics. That's linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. There you can buy all kinds of merch like wonderful aluminum mugs. You can give us money for free via both Cash App or Patreon. And you can see all of our shows and all of our notes, buy t-shirts, whatever you want. That's linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. And now, Mozz, if people would like to talk to you about Capes, Lunatics, $1 million winnings, and how you would spend yours, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in the old-fashioned email way that our mothers and fathers once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitter when I live tweet things until, of course, Twitter is no more. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Ding.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties. You have come to the end of another exciting adventure sailing on the high seas of streaming services. Come back again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead.
Arr. All right.
Thank you, Mozz.